Hey, how are you?
Hi, how you doing, Tom? It's great to be back here on Canadian media.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. I feel you're a good friend of Canadian media.
I'm a good friend of Canada.
I've heard that
We're
before.
neighbors. I took French in elementary school.
Tell me about
Yeah,
this
let's
record.
change the subject. I got right off that record.
That's all right. It's single. It's single album. It was supposed to be a double album. Tell me about that.
Well, I like to try new things and set goals. I really wanted to make a great double album because I don't think anyone has done that before except for Pink Floyd, The Wall. Even the Beatles double record. It's like it's got some turds on it. So I set out to do that, and I didn't accomplish it. I recorded 28 songs, 23 made the double album, and I played it for some people and some good friends. I played disc 2 first, and everyone liked it. But then they heard disc 1, and they go, "Ooh, this is much better." So I didn't want a double album like that, where it's, oh yeah, he did it. Side 2 really kind of falls off.
What does that tell you about how hard it is to make a double album?
It's very hard. And you think about it differently too. You think about making it interesting. You don't think about making a half hour of great music. You have to do an hour. So, I wrote a bunch of weird songs, like including The Big Drag, which is the first song on the album. I wouldn't have written that song if it was a single album.
Why not?
Because a 6-minute song that, doesn't really have that many changes. It's 3 chords or 4 chords, the whole song. I don't write like that. How can who would write a song that long with the same chords? Of course, it is an interesting song because there are, no measure is the same length and the bass never lands on a note. There's all kinds of weird, crazy shit in there. But I wouldn't have tried to write that song unless it was a double album. So, I got some cool stuff out of it. The double album was called Single Album.
Oh, even back when it was a double album, you're still going to call it
Yeah.
single album?
Yeah, because NOFX have a double album out called Single Album. It worked, but now it works even better because now it's a single album. Why'd you call this record Single Album? What's a single album, dummy?
I want to play you a track from that single album. Take a listen to this.
I walked into the Eagle and someone called me sis. I said, I'm not a sis, I'm a sissy. Should I call you Mr. or Miss? I said, I'm actually a trans man, but before I got to tight, the place erupted into my first gender pronoun bar fight.
That's a little of the song. I got to say, F-Euphemism from the brand new NOFX album, Single Album. Tell me a little bit about this song and how it came about.
This song, we jammed it. Which NOFX never jam, but we were learning, White Trash, Two Heaves, and a Bean. No, we were learning something. We were rehearsing for a tour, and we just started jamming it, me and Smelly. And then the band started playing it. It's like, oh, we actually wrote a song together, which never, ever happens. And I wrote the lyrics really fast. It just flowed out because, when I came up with the title, I usually start with the title of a song. I was just so tickled about it because, F-Euphemism it's such a cool thing to say. It's, a word game. And then I just kept going with it. And they may be my favorite lyrics I ever wrote.
What do you want a longtime NOFX listener to take from that song?
Well, there's one very important part of that song. And that's towards the end when I say, call me per for person, which I think per is the pronoun that people should be using. I mean, I'm not here to tell anyone what pronouns they should use. It's up to them. But per for person works all the time. I love per. I saw per last night. I slept with per, right? When you say, oh, I saw them last night. I slept with them. Hey, that's a whole different thing. You sound slutty when you say that. Sounds like you got together with them. Woo! It's just, they and them is, sure, use it. It's politically, it's the term non-binary people want to use, but per is just a better term. I didn't come up with it. It's from an 80s feminist novel I read, The Good Terrorist by Doris Lessing. And when I read it, I was in college. I was a human sexuality minor. And I was like, wow, per, what a great word. And, but no one would use it. But now it seems like it would be a great pronoun. So I am trying to spread that. I think, as I think it's less confusing for the transgender community and, anyone who is non-gender specific.
Yeah, for per. I had never heard it before I heard your song, but then I ended up reading about it afterwards and kind of looking it up.
Right. It just makes sense. So I think for my fans, I just think it's a cool word to put out there.
I'm curious as to how coming out publicly has shaped you as a songwriter. I know it was something you hid for decades. How did it affect your music and your writing once you came out?
Well, I've always kind of talked about BDSM, but still, when I was in my 30s, I was really scared. Like the band kind of knew I saw dominatrixes and I was kinky, but me and my wife Erin, we had a dungeon in our house, but it was super private. It was up a secret staircase built in the 30s, and we never went out. And I was closeted and a secret crossdresser too. So when I was 45, I finally cross-dressed in public and played a show, and it really did change my life. This tattoo I have, "Don't Dream It, Be It," from Rocky Horror, those words would haunt me because I'm like, damn, I'm a rock star. I do everything I want. Why am I so fucking scared?
Why
am I so scared? Well, I don't know why. Just, maybe my dad, when I was a kid, and he said, if you get okay, you're a punk rock, and I understand that, but if you get an earring, I'm going to tear it out of your ear because no son of mine's going to be like those are words I grew up with. And growing up in the LA punk scene, if you even had long hair, you'd get your ass kicked. It was just, scary. And that's when, I used to wear panties in secret. So it just I was scared. When I came out, it was finally I was free. And, especially after our book, Hepatitis Bathtub, came out, all our stories are in there. So it's public knowledge. Now I'm going to sing about it.
Did it change the way you wrote and made music?
To change the way well, yeah, because I sing more personal. I mean, I did the Cokie the Clown album, which, might be the most depressing album ever made, but personally, I sang about everything. I couldn't get more personal, but it was also destructive. I sang that curled up in a corner drinking vodka. It was pretty depressing.
Was there a specific moment in your career? Because this is something, I don't want to give anybody the impression that this is new, you singing about your life. I mean, you said in an interview one time, I just can't stop singing songs about my life. Truth is stranger than fiction. And I, as a fan of your music, I've always loved when you say stuff like, we get the reputation as a funny band because we're funny in our banter, but our songs are very personal. Our songs are very real. Was there a specific moment that you knew that you wanted to be as honest as you could about your own life as a songwriter?
I don't know if there's a moment, but I know after I went through the euthanasia with my mother, I went in the studio and recorded that song 2 or 3 weeks later. And so this was 2006, but I didn't want to release it ever. I wanted to sing this song as, a really important time in my life. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have a few songs that I've written and recorded that I never want to release.
It sounds like therapeutic, right? It sounds like it's therapeutic for you to sing it, to write it.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was just really depressing. And recording the whole Cokie album was a really hard time. And then I played shows after that. I played 3 shows, and I decided I can never tour this because it was not therapeutic at all. It's just, I just used more and drank more and needed to get whipped after the show so I could forget about all these terrible stories. Not cathartic. It's not cathartic to go down memory lane with the worst tragedies of your life.
Yeah. A friend of mine said to me the other day, he said, because I've been going through some stuff, and he said, Tom, everyone wants to have been vulnerable. No one wants to actually be vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's an interesting term. I've been using that a lot with the woman I'm with right now. Because I am actually being more vulnerable in my life right now than I ever have been before. Which is kind of weird.
I like the idea of having had been vulnerable, but I don't actually want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Everyone's like that. I've reached a level in my life where vulnerability is, I love it. It's just, I've really been so damaged and so abused throughout my life by trusting people, by giving my absolute trust, because, I'm a very honorable man. And, I was with 2 women in 30 years. I slept with 2 women. And in my business, that's pretty weird. And I just, I don't lie. So when I ran into people that did lie to me, a lot of people, most heartbreaking was my musical, when I got this big Broadway producer and he told me all this stuff, and we're still not open. I'm still in legal battles with it. I just don't know why. Why would you do this to me? It's not even about money anymore. It's just about power. And so I don't get it. And now I'm just I like being vulnerable, and I still trust people because I can't stop. I don't want to live a life where I'm jaded like that. I'm cynical. Can't do it.
No, me neither. You joke around a little bit on this album that because you're so open on your writing here and in your memoir that you put out a few years back, that now your teenage daughter knows more than she'd ever like to about her dad. What kind of conversations does that lead to?
That actually, I sang that line in the song, but it's not true. And I almost always sing the truth. But yeah, Darla, my daughter, has not read the book. I told her when she turns 18, she can never read the book because she can never read the book. Don't even open it.
Yeah, you're worried about that?
I'm not that worried because she's so cool, and we talk about everything. We're very open. I mean, I got high heel shoes for Father's Day, so she knows what I do. Her boyfriend actually asked me a few months ago. He's like, "So you're into like the BDSM thing?" I'm like, "Oh boy, here it comes." Getting this question from a 16-year-old.
How did it go?
I'm like, "Oh yeah, totally." Since I was little, it's pretty cool, fun stuff.
Anyway, want some lemonade? I'll play another track on the record. Take a listen to this.
What's the point of doing more when the drugs don't work no more? That's when I realized that while scraping the floor in Birmingham, why'd I need to score when the drugs don't work no more? That's when I realized what I am in Birmingham.
If you're just tuning in, I'm Tom Power. This is Q. The song you're hearing is called Birmingham from the brand new NOFX album, Single Album. I'm speaking with lead singer and songwriter Fat Mike. I mean, speaking of telling the truth, I mean, this is the one where you said you reached sort of a moment of clarity after being an addict. Can you tell me a little bit about this song?
Well, yeah, it was. Well, Birmingham, we played a show. We had the day off the next day. Normally, when we play, there's like tour rules I have set on myself. If I'm going to party, I got to go to sleep by 4 or 5 so I can get 7 hours, wake up for sound check. It's just how it goes. You can't stay up all night and then play a show. And I had a drug dealer's number, and as you do, you scrape the floor, whatever, you get the last of the coke, and someone's coming up, and I called the guy, and it was just I'd never done that before on tour. I actually have, I have a system. I get this much, because I never want to OD, so I'm allowed this much, hang out a little bit with friends, jerk off, go to bed. So I was like, oh, this is gross, and I wasn't getting high, and I was ruining my next day. And it was just, I didn't want to do drugs. I just wanted to do more. So yeah, that was a moment of clarity where it's not the drugs. Drugs are fun. Like a pitcher of margaritas, that first pitcher is fun. First few lines are fun, but then it's not really fun anymore.
I find that interesting. Hey, I didn't want to do drugs. I just want to do more.
Yeah. And in that song, the second line you just played, I can't repeat it exactly because I sang the wrong words, but I decided to keep it.
What do you mean?
If you play that line again, I'll tell you what I mean. It doesn't make proper English sense. It's like I got confused and I sang the wrong words.
Tom, can you play it? Just play it again.
What's the point of doing more when the drugs don't work no more. That's when I realized that while scraping the floor in Birmingham.
That's when I realized that.
That's when I realized that while I'm scraping.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I misheard it as like, and I realized that after scraping the floor. And
No, I missung it. And Bill Stevenson's like, yeah, you didn't sing that right. I'm like, I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
Just because it's perfect to miss-sing in this song.
You talk in your book about being the sober member of NOFX while your bandmates were using drugs. And then once they were clean, you chose to start using drugs. And it was something you were comfortable with, and you documented in your music and your TV show. So what did it take? Was it that moment of clarity that led you to go to rehab this time?
No, I'll tell you that. But what's funny is that when NOFX started, our first rehearsal, Eric and Eric had X's on their hands. They were both straight edge. And I was drinking, 40 ounces. I drank. I just didn't try drugs till my 30s. But then, slowly turned into a junkie. But no, I'm sober now because, well, I needed a break because I had depression. I never had depression before through my second divorce and just being lonely and, doing cokey and just, I'm not good alone because I was, an abandoned child and since I was like 6 or 7. So I don't do well alone. My band actually, NOFX had an intervention on me, which was terrible. I was pissed off. And I called it too. It was really funny because I was texting them on Monday and Tuesday and no one answered my texts, which never happens. So I texted them Tuesday night. I said, all right, I guess I'll see you at the intervention tomorrow.
Really?
They showed up at my house at noon. And I go, oh, you guys, it's noon? I figured it'd be in the afternoon. And Smiley's like, who told you? Who told you about the intervention? I'm like, well, nobody. You guys didn't answer my text. And I figured since you saw me party a lot on our Weekend at Fatty's show, I figured it's about time for an intervention.
Can I ask you that? Like, I've only ever seen interventions on TV, and I have to admit that when I watch them, I watch them from the perspective of the people giving the intervention. You know what I mean? That's just my life. Tell me what it's like to be in that chair when you're I guess you're having an intervention to you.
Well, this one really pissed me off because I wasn't using that much. I was partying 2 or 3 times a week, totally acceptable, especially during COVID. And I fired one of our crew members because he was really messing up. And he told my band that I was so wasted on drugs that I fired him. So I wasn't around them. They saw me one day. They saw me at one show. And I partied. I partied so much, actually made a porn that night. That was a big mistake.
Made a porn? Not just had sex, but made a porn.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. It was like 1 a.m. There were 3 DOMs. I got violated, and it was all on film. And I hope it never comes out. So, I was pretty wasted that night. But then I'm riding my bike five times a week. Yeah, and I'm healthy. And so anyway, they came for the intervention. I just guessed it, which is really funny. And then I did a line and did a shot of vodka before. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting ready for this. And then they told me, you have to go to rehab. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'll get sober, but why would I want to go to rehab? I went to detox once. That was 5 days, and I was fine I was sober for 3 months. I don't need to talk to doctors. I'm not a drug addict. And they're like, well, we're not going to play with you anymore. We're not recording or playing shows until you go to rehab. So I was like, F you, screw this. And then I was going on a sober vacation with my friend in his motorhome. We were going to the Grand Canyon to play golf and just to hang out for 3 weeks and, not use. That was how I was going to deal with it. Oh, if they think I have a problem, okay, I'll deal with it. And the first day I'm at Avenged Sevenfold's house. We're about to golf and I don't feel well. And I started puking blood and I puked up 2 liters of blood. And then I started coming out all my holes and I thought I was dying. Really, when blood's coming out your butt, you think you're dying.
It's the moment. It's the moment in the movie where people, it's like coughing into the.
Yeah, but it's just like coming out like this, and
Jesus.
It cost me, my cleaning bill is crazy. But I called my daughter and my wife, and I said, I think I'm dying. I wanted to say, I love you, and it was really sad. they took me to the hospital, and it turns out I had a H. pylori bacteria and I had a bleeding ulcer, and it was just my stomach filled up with blood from this ulcer, from this bacteria, and I'd had stomach pains for months. And my ex-wife Erin, bless her heart, she said, "You're going to rehab." After that phone call, and she said, "I'll pay for half." And so I just went, and it was a really awesome experience. But both the doctor and the therapist there told me, "What are you doing here?" My organs were all healthy, and they asked me how much I use, and I went in sober. Most people don't go to rehab sober. I was just like, sober. Oh, you're sober? Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not using drugs right now. Like, well, what are you doing here? Well, I think it's time for a break. And I learned so much about myself. It was such a great experience. I went to every class and all the group therapies, and realized that my problem is I don't know how to deal with stress or any kind of, not just stress. When bad things happen to me, I turn to alcohol and drugs, but when I'm happy and things are going well, I don't.
Yeah.
So,
and you got a stressful job, man. Like to some people, it seems like you're on stage playing music, and that's fun. And like, it is fun on stage playing music, but like, you just told me you have to fire a crew member. I think what people don't realize, especially during this pandemic, is that NOFX is not just you guys anymore. It's a big team. It's a big crew. You're like essentially in charge of a big operation. It's stressful.
Yeah. And, in 30 years, we only fired 2 people. You really have to mess up. But NOFX, that's not stressful. I've been doing that forever. Divorce is stressful. My musical, which I think is my best work of my life, I can't get it open. And it was finally opening in July last year in LA. We had a 3-month run that was going to be extended. And COVID came and it didn't open. And it's heartbreaking for me that this musical, I spent 10 years writing it, every word. And I can't get it out there. There's a version from 2014, but that's not the musical. The new one is really, really good. So those are the kind of things that I can't get over. Every night going to bed, it'd be like, what am I going to do? I'm in this lawsuit, and now it's not going to open. And it's just, I can't deal with stress like that. I never learned how, because I have a stress, being in a punk band your whole life, there's no stress. What? You get a flat tire, that's stress. You don't sell out somewhere. There's no stress. You're hanging out with your best friends your whole life. But I never learned how to deal with other things. And I did learn how to deal with things in rehab. So it was a really good experience. And I decided to take, a year sober.
So how are you doing now?
Oh, great. I mean, I love being sober. I'm getting so much stuff done. And it's how I like to live. But after a year, I probably will start partying again, at shows.
Oh yeah.
Or when I feel like it. Yeah, I don't want to be sober my whole life. I want to be in control. I mean, actually, if you look up the definition of sober is, being in control and moderation, and that's where I want to be. And I've been like that. In my 30s, I was like that. And I started getting worse and worse. But anyway, I just like being sober now. I'm writing crazy amounts of songs, more songs than I've ever written. In fact, we're recording a new album starting in 2 weeks, which is going to come out this year. I just have so many songs. And what's cool? I just bought a 12,000 square foot building in Las Vegas.
Whoa.
Where I'm opening the Punk Rock Museum.
Yeah, I heard about this, and the bar to be in. You know how there's all this stuff about like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's a big voting thing, and all kinds of bands. And the Punk Rock Museum, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be like, if you were ever in a punk band, you can get in the Punk Rock Museum.
Right. If you were on a flyer and ever recorded a song, you're in. Like we're trying to get flyers from every town in the world. We want people from Regina. Bands that opened up for 7 seconds once, to go to the Punk Rock Museum and say, oh my God, we're on the wall. We are on the wall. I talked to Pat Smear, from Germs and Foo Fighters 2 days ago. And he's so excited. And he said, he told Dave Grohl about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's like, this sucks. you have to be inducted by, a panel. How horrible is that? And embarrassing to be inducted.
Yeah.
That, we're liked by all these suits, that know nothing about rock and roll.
I've often wondered how Pat deals with that. Like, I knew Germs, and I know, of course, Pat was in Nirvana for a while and stuff like that, just very briefly towards the end. But I often wonder how he does with the big rock apparatus, with the, the big thing sometimes.
He's one of the coolest people ever. I don't know him that well, but I've known him for quite a few years. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the guys from the early punk scene that's just so cool.
Yeah, he's a great
and
guy.
Insightful, and we had a great talk. And he loves it, the Punk Rock Museum, how anyone could be in there. And
I love it too.
He said, he goes, but there has to be, some kind of line. You have to have some kind of criteria to let bands in. He goes, I'm thinking if they ever recorded a song. And I'm like, well, I'm going with, if you ever played a show and you're on a flyer, you can be in. And and it's also 5 decades of punk. It's not old school. It's everything.
Mike,
but
it's nice.
It's taking up a lot of my time now.
I bet it is. It's nice to talk to you. We're going to go out on Linoleum. Can you set up Linoleum for me?
Linoleum, it's like I said, I try to write stuff that I've never done before, or no one has. And I sing a song about retiring one of our songs, our most popular song. And it does really mess with your brain, because not only do I change lyrics, I change chords and I change melody. And it's just weird. When the first time I do a chord change that you don't expect, it messes you up.
Are you actually retiring Linoleum?
That's the plan. But we've tried to practice Linoleum and we haven't been able to pull it off yet. So that's a problem. It's a little bit too complicated. Right. Took Smelly a long time to play it, and I don't know if we can put it off live. So we'll see.
So until you get that down, Linoleum's going to have to stay in the meantime.
Yeah. And what a joy it was to make those videos and to just get bands from all over the world who covered it. Really, really fun.
That felt like the Punk Rock Museum, and that felt like, because I was kind of like, I think I'm going to know most of these bands, and just seeing all those bands I didn't know and all these young bands, it was so cool.
Mostly from Indonesia. And, we only made one video, and then we got all these people writing how happy they were. Like, I can't believe I'm in this NOFX video. It's like, it's my highlight of, my life. I can't believe this. So I told our video guy, go make another one, because I want another 80 bands to be totally stoked.
That's beautiful. So, it's nice to talk to you, Mike.
Thank you for having me on, Tom. Good interview.